Throughout Scripture, the warning about blind guides appears again and again. These are leaders who claim spiritual authority but lack true understanding of God's heart. Rather than leading people into truth and freedom, they burden them with fear, control, and distorted teaching. In the Old Testament, God repeatedly confronted leaders who misled his people. The prophets spoke strongly against shepherds who cared more for their own power than for the people they were called to serve. In Ezekiel 34:2-4, God rebukes the shepherds of Israel for feeding themselves instead of the flock, ruling harshly and failing to heal or restore the lost. Likewise, Jeremiah 23:1 warns of shepherds who scatter God's people through false guidance. These leaders were not merely mistaken, they misrepresented God's character. Instead of reflecting his mercy, they used authority to control, shame, and exploit. In the New Testament, Jesus speaks even more directly. He warns his listeners about religious leaders who appear righteous outwardly but lack true spiritual sight. In Matthew 15:14, he calls them blind guides, saying that when the blind lead the blind, both fall into a pit. In Matthew 23, Jesus delivers a series of strong rebukes, condemning leaders who burden others with heavy religious demands while neglecting justice, mercy, and faithfulness. He exposes their hypocrisy, honoring rules and traditions while obscuring the very heart of God. Jesus' concern was not simply bad teaching, it was spiritual harm. When leaders distort God's character, people become fearful instead of free. They begin to believe God is harsh, distant, or withholding grace. This is the very opposite of the good news Jesus proclaimed. Sadly, this pattern did not end in biblical times. Blind guides still operate today wherever fear is used to control people, wherever spiritual authority becomes a tool of power, and wherever God's grace is hidden behind threats, shame, or manipulation. When leaders emphasize condemnation over restoration or exclusion over mercy, they repeat the same error Scripture has long warned against. True spiritual leadership reflects God's heart to seek the lost, heal the broken, and restore what has been scattered. Jesus did not come to burden people with fear, but to reveal the Father's compassion and generosity. The biblical warning about blind guides is therefore timeless. It calls believers to discernment, humility, and clarity of vision, so that faith is not rooted in fear of losing God's favor, but in the assurance that his grace is real, abundant, and restoring. Jude 1:4. Some distort the grace of God and use it for their own purposes. God does not burden without healing. The Lord seeks the lost, restores the scattered, strengthens the weak, and gathers his people with tenderness. Jesus reveals a Father whose generosity surprises us, like the landowner who pays all workers generously, or the shepherd who searches until the lost sheep is found. Visit us on www.patristicuniversalism.com.